welcome back to another episode of Educator Diaries. I'm Chantel and I'm joined by my co-host Maria.
Hi everyone, welcome to episode 6, Educators in Childcare. Why are educators leaving the sector?
Yeah, so today we'll be chatting about what are some contributing factors to burnout and some tips to hopefully help with staff retention, as well as some self-help tips to hopefully help everyone stay in the sector and not being so exhausted and not wanting to leave as well. So
look, I've been out of the childcare industry for a while, as you know, and so what's happening, Chantal? What's actually happening out there? Because all I hear is, or I see on social media, there's so many issues that are happening with educators wanting to leave. So what do you think? What do you think the core problem here is?
Yeah, I think obviously COVID, I guess that's the big thing that everyone blames for everything. But I think that COVID didn't help in the sense that it gave everyone time to probably reflect if they really want to do this job anymore. I think we got through all that and then everyone was like, you know what, that was such a scary time. I want to do what's right for me, and maybe this job isn't right for me, or maybe this environment is too stressful, or I just can't do this job anymore, I think. So
did you experience that? Because you were right in the smack in the middle of when you brought your new kindergarten centre, right in the middle of COVID.
Yeah, I think it was a really stressful time, and the beauty of it was that it sort of kind of made everyone stop. We went quite simple with things. We did a lot of community engagement, and I think because we didn't have a lot of children coming to the centre, it was actually really nice in a way. It was stressful, but it was actually nice in a way because you actually did get back to some of that basic stuff with the children. Then all of a sudden, all the families started coming back. You're back into all those regulation things, and unfortunately, the department, all those A&R assessments and things like that, they all started back. But I think we're all still trying to cope with the stresses of what we'd gone through, and I think we just sort of kind of looked and went, you know what, it's just a bit unrealistic. I think this likens itself a little bit to me from, going back years ago, Maria, when the department brought in that you could no longer be an untrained assistant. So we lost so many people from our sector back then because a lot of people were a bit older and they were like, you know what, I'm not going to study again. I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to leave. It's all too hard.
Because the label of untrained assistant back then, and that was when I owned my kindergarten, the passion for working with children was there.
Yeah, that's right.
And wanting to nurture and care for every child's daily needs, it was there. And it wasn't so much of you've got to do that, but you've got to do this, and this.
It was a lot simpler. Exactly. You could actually just come in and, and I guess what a lot of people are trying to strive for in our sector is, having a higher quality care. And I get that. I'm all for higher quality care and education and what have you. But I think, unfortunately for me, I can see that it's almost been lost along the line a little bit, that it's almost gone too far, that it's becoming so regulated and there's just so many compliance things that we have to do that we've got to tick all these boxes, and it's become to the point where you're ticking them for the wrong reason. Back in the day, we used to really and I know, again, things have improved. I'm not saying that they haven't from reflection, but, we could go to work and we'd have our programs and, they were still engaging, they were still fun, but we weren't walking around with an iPad trying to take 1,000 photos of children and making sure that everything is ticked, that the parents are getting updates every half an hour, all this sort of stuff. The parents were happy for us just to say to them at the end of the day, they had a great day. This is what we did today. Go and show mum or dad or grandma or whatever what you've done over there, because we had the time. We had the time in the afternoon to have a talk with these families as well. Whereas now it just feels like there's so many things to do that it's sort of kind of just taken the fun out of it.
It has. Look, the first thing and foremost is, and I remember being asked that question when I started working in childcare, but and also owning my own kindergarten, was why? Why do you want to become an educator? Why do you want to go and work in childcare? Why do you want to own a business in childcare? And first of all was because love working with children. Having that passion, wanting to help young children. It wasn't for the money, because we all know money in childcare, unfortunately,
Staff wages, no.
I mean, that's something that's got to be looked at. But we've been saying that for years. And so the reason behind it wasn't to go and earn big dollars. It was because that was your passion. That's what you wanted to do and follow.
Yeah, it was always a love job. And but
I believe now it's just the sake of, let me just go work with children. Let me go and childcare to work for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, and I think that maybe, with new people coming into the sector, they may not realise maybe they're coming in for the right reasons. I'm not saying that they're not. They're probably coming in because they do want to work with children, but they don't realise all the stuff that goes with it. And I think that's probably a big part of it as well. What's happening is that we're losing, pardon the words, our old stock. Like I consider myself old stock. That, you've got that experience. So we're losing these experienced educators. And then what's happening, you're getting, unexperienced educators coming in, which is great. We want those trainees. We want new blood into the sector. But they don't have the quality educators there to show them the ropes like we did. Like
to have that role model to look up to and sort of, and that's approachable for them to go to and say, listen, how is this activity, to be done, and just the engaging part with young children. Because when you're very young, you're young yourself, and
sometimes they don't know how to talk to children, and like those simple things. Yeah. And when you've got experienced educators there, that they see, you see the role models there, that they get down to their eye language, like eye level, and have that engaging language with them, and those, like, that caring nature. It's not just about, we've just got to get through this. And that's what it feels like at the moment. It feels like, let's just get through the day, because, there's just so much to jam pack in. It's almost like, where do we find the time? Yeah. Where do we find the time to do all these learning stories, observations, cleaning checklists, and then critically reflect on everything, because that's what's expected, the critical reflection on everything. And then implement it. You might have time to critically reflect throughout the day, because that's what we do all day. How can we do this better? What can we do? But you know what? We're expected then to document that down, write it down, and then do a whole lot of things off that critical reflection, where sometimes you just don't have the time. It's as simple as that.
Okay, so who do you think's accountable for this burnout? Is it the educators? Is it the directors? Is it the play managers? Is it department? Where do you think that this is stemming from? Okay, so I think there's quite a few factors that have come into it. So I know a lot of the times educators might look to their directors and go, well, I'm not getting, this and this. But then the directors have probably, maybe they've got someone above them that are, putting pressures on them as well. You can only do this and this. Yes. Right. So, like, for instance, after talking, I've obviously had a lot of friends leave childcare as well. For totally other jobs, like they're not even in the sector at all, and anything child related. And that's so, after talking to people, there's been a whole lot of different reasons, whether or not they've just left a centre and gone to another centre, or left the industry altogether. So a lot of people are tired, and I think part of that is when talking to people, they're like, I won't go and work at a centre that isn't that is open over Christmas holidays, because what happens is they said, you work all over Christmas, the children are tired, we're tired, and we just don't get that break. We really just need that break. And I get it, some people might prefer to work in a centre, therefore they can take their more holidays throughout the year. But you generally do find that a lot of people don't like to work over Christmas holidays. They just don't. That's when you're becoming tired and just need that. You look forward to having that big break. I mean, I remember when I had my kindergarten, we started off with just 2 weeks, if you recall that. And then, but as the years went on, I ended up, just for sanity, just for that rejuvenation of coming back to and fresh feeling, rejuvenated, and the staff, we ended up closing for 4 weeks. But I think all your staff then come back refreshed. It's not like someone's just taken 2 weeks off and then they come back in another 2 weeks and what have you. So, you know what, and I get not all centres can do that. I mean, I'm not going to lie, you lose money. But at the same time, your health and your well-being is more important than money. Because I knew when I came back at the end of January that all you guys came back feeling refreshed. Yeah, ready to start the year, and these children got the best out of us. But
like I said, not all centres will be able to do it, because there are still working families out there that do need the services. But I just feel that That is something that has been said back to me many times. And then even just with the whole breaks, staff not getting breaks off the floor. I don't know how this is happening. And I understand
why.
Well, I think because there's staff shortages, they can't get casuals in. Right. So therefore staff are working through lunch breaks. They may be getting paid for it. Okay. You might be able to do it one day here or one day there. But if it's happening all the time, they're just exhausted. Come the end of the day, they're exhausted. And if you're exhausted, you can't then give quality care back to those children as well. So I think, that's a really big thing, is that, staff not getting their time off the floor. And even for programming time, it's actually in our award that if you are providing a program and you're programming for children, you're entitled to 2 hours non-contact time off the floor. Again, sometimes it doesn't happen because of whatever reasons, but I think all centres should really strive to try and give their educators as much time, non-contact time, not at sleep time, non-contact time, that meaning totally off the floor, to get this paperwork done.
So we're calling educators early childhood workers, we're calling diplomas and certificate 3s. Is this what the label of educators that we're talking about?
Yeah.
In childcare, right?
Yeah, because you find, depending on the centres, some centres are structured differently, that maybe only diplomas, maybe only ECTs are the ones doing the formal programs for the children. Right. For me, it was like, a lot of all my educators were, having focused children's and things like that to help contribute. But there might be some centres that may just have their ECTs or whatever, like taking the majority of those children. So they may get more programming time off the floor and what have you. But, that aside, I think that it's also, there's other little things that I think are really contributing at the moment. I know there's some educators that are on a set roster. There's no flexibility with their rosters. They could be on a late for a month. I get, the weekly rotations and things like that. But if you're stuck on a 10 to 6 shift for a whole month, then that takes a toll, or even an early, like getting up early from 7 to whatever, can take a toll, like on educators as well. So I know that has been reasons why I've known some people to leave centres as well.
How do we put a stop to this? Someone's got to stand up and speak up about this. And, look, I know everyone runs their own. You've got private centres, you've got
community-based and council centres.
But at the same time, right, we're all there for the same reason, to care for these children.
Yep.
Right? So if we've got happy children, we've got to have happy educators.
Yeah. That's right, 100%.
And when we talk about breaks and we talk about holidays and we talk about programming, how do we all come together to say, right, there's got to be a happy, harmonious, feeling, solution to.
Well, it's hard because after reading so many posts, even on like the social media platforms, that there's a lot of social groups, Facebook pages and things like that are dedicated to directors and also to like early childhood educators. But there was one the other day that someone said they've just been told they cannot take holidays. And people are going, what do you mean? They go, well, I've been told we don't have the staff for us to take holidays. So do not put in for any time off because we cannot take it. So
that's not
like that straight away is going to, like, even if you didn't want to take holidays, would make me go, well, hang on a tick, you don't appreciate me. So I think that's where a lot of it's coming from. Even educators on there are saying a simple thank you, a simple appreciation of what we do from management even, or people even. I think at the moment a big thing is the pay rates that are coming in, because people feel like they've such a big responsibility and the pay doesn't match the responsibility. So I think that could be a contributing factor as well. They're like, well, if I'm going to be responsible for all this, then I need to have my pay that reflects it.
I mean, it's always good to know your self-worth, but entering, and like I said to you at the beginning, entering childcare, you don't do it for the money.
No.
Unfortunately, this is going to be a constant sort of battle with, wages in childcare. But then again, like you said, if you're going to carry out this responsibility, you're going to be paid for it.
Well, I can't see, and I can't see why not, in the sense that my biggest thing that I've noticed is that after owning a centre, what happens is come July, the government gives a higher rebate to families because, that gets more votes. I'm going to help you with childcare fees. I'm going to help you with childcare fees. And so all the families are like, oh my gosh, this is so wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But what then happens is the centres go, well, okay, our wages are going up because generally there's a wage increase around the same time. Our costs have gone up. You know what? I know families are going to get a higher childcare benefit. So what we're going to do, we're just going to put our fees up. But it doesn't really help anything else. It's just like a vicious cycle. What I would think is, why doesn't the government subsidise the staff wages? So their wages can go higher. The centre doesn't have to put their fees up because they're getting the wage subsidies there. So therefore they don't have to put their fees up, and so the parents aren't getting charged more anyway. But I don't know, does that not sell as many votes and things like that? Because you know, people are going, oh well, I'm not a childcare educator, I don't care, and that. But parents don't realise that it's going to come around, if we look after these educators better as well.
Definitely, because your children are in their care, and you want to make sure that they're getting what they deserve. And like I said, if you've got a happy educator, you've got a happy child. And unfortunately, like you were saying, there's a lot of educators leaving the sector, and centres are left abandoned with, not the correct ratio staffing, and that puts an impact on another educator that's in the room, or the director. It's like a vicious battle at the moment.
It is, and then you're trying to get casual educators in, which is really hard to find at the moment as well. But yourself, if a casual educator comes in and they're not familiar with your centre, they're just doing like basic stuff, so therefore the other educators are trying to carry that load as well, like whether or not it be uploading photos and using the different apps and platforms and what have you. So I think in general that, and then on top of all that, like I said, it's the compliance issues, and it's all these other things that you think, what, I can't just sit down with a child and play, because I've got to take a photo of that child. I've got to write up a report on that child as to why we're playing. Then I've got to critically reflect on that, going, well, what did the child get out of this, and what didn't they get out of this? How can I do this better? And that's fine in the big scheme of things, and it might sound wonderful, but if you're doing that all day for every single child, it's just exhausting, and it almost takes the fun out of everything. Rather than back in our simple days, it was like we'd evaluate our program, we'd sit down, we'd talk about it, and we had time to talk about it.
Still compliance with accreditation. We still, with that quality assurance, we had that going still. But the quality time that we spent with the children, interactive, fun,
because we didn't have to document everything to prove evidence. That's what it is. Yeah.
But that's taking away the care and the fun that you have interacting with the children, engaging with the children, doing all this paperwork that's got to be done. I mean, you've got to weigh up to say, what's the reason for childcare?
Yeah, that's right.
What's the reason behind it all?
Well, that's right. And that's like, after talking to a friend of mine, they were saying that, when they got into childcare to educate and care for young children. And they said to me, I'll be honest with you, it's not there anymore. I don't have time to do the educational part to my full extent. So that's why this person left the industry. Yeah. And it's like, and this person was such an amazing educator, and I'm like, what, it's a shame.
It's not right. It's not right. And you know what? I'm going to say it because I used to say this all along too. Even there were issues that we used to have when I had my kindergarten, but as you do, you follow through what the department's saying. But you know what? Those people that implement these laws and these procedures and these regulations that have to happen, they're not the ones that turn up day in and day out working with these kids. I say butt out and ask the childcare industry, ask the directors, ask the educators, how do you think is best fit in order to evaluate and make sure that each child is given that one-on-one attention of personalised programming or whatever you want to call it. How is this going to work?
Yeah.
Don't sit there up on your hierarchy chair and say, this is what you have to do, right? Do this, this and this, and follow through.
Yeah.
At the same time, hey guys, I'm not paying you the correct way. I'm not giving you a good wage. But you know what? Turn up every day and make sure you keep to your ratios, because then if you don't, I'm going to close you down, or the director loses her job, or there's going to be or accreditation. Like, I mean, what is it all? What is it all?
I know. And this is the whole thing. It's almost like too much. It's almost, there's just so many aspects and levels to it all that it just
But you know what's more scarier?
Too much.
Parents are unaware this is happening. Parents are unaware this is happening.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel so sad, because as a parent, I mean, my kids are all grown up and so are your kids. I mean, but for these mothers who have first taken their children to childcare, you walk in thinking this is a happy, harmonious place. My child's going to be, have a friendly, interactive, stimulating experience here. But then on the flip side,
they don't see that the staff are like are stressed and you know what, it also does.
And children pick up from this.
They do, and the parent expectation has changed a lot as well because. Again, back in the day, you might be lucky to have maybe a day book out there that would have a couple of pictures stuck on it with, a reflection of even of the day, like this is what we did today. And it was just simple terms, this is what we did today, had so much fun, da-da-da. Then you'd have the chat with the parent of the afternoon, blah, blah, blah. Now you've got an app and parents are like, well, where's my update? I used to get phone calls at 4 o'clock. How come the app hasn't been updated? And I was like, well, for the staff to update the app, that means someone is sitting on an iPad, which at the moment, do you know what? We've had maybe a child vomit and we've had, a child throw a tantrum or, lunch, we're still feeding children lunch and da-da-da. This is why, this is why the app's not updated. But then they'd also be like, well, there's only 3 photos of my child. How come there's only 3 photos? And so it becomes this demanding expectation because it's all there. All the information's there for them, and the more that you give, it's sometimes the more they want. And then on the flip side, you've got these educators that are busting their backsides, doing all these observations and putting learning stories up. And do you think parents even liked it or even commented on it or stuff like that? So I don't know. It's so hard. Whereas some parents want so much, but others don't even care.
Don't even acknowledge
that. It's really, really hard.
Vicious battle. But
it is, yeah.
Well, just to all the educators out there, the most key important factor is communication, okay? I know you guys are all communicating on Facebook, Instagram, your own social page, trying to get feedback. But at the end of the day, you need to communicate, and that means either to your director, because maybe your director's unaware this is happening, right? To the
room leader,
to the centre management, the owners of the kindergarten. Take that step because what you're doing, and feeling this way shouldn't be happening. And sometimes conversing with one another, what works for one centre doesn't work for another, right?
No, that's true. That's true.
Okay.
And the different structures at the centres,
Look, it's great to get advice. It's great to sort of, use that platform as just to,
to vent.
To vent, which we all do, and you need that. But it's good to vent, but have you've
got to be proactive about it as well.
That's exactly right.
And I think, look, I've had a bit of a thought about it and gone through some of these social media pages and seen some advice from some centres, from educators who are happy at their centres and why are they happy and why are others not happy. So some helpful tips, hopefully, just to stop educators from burning out. Little things like take your breaks. You're entitled to them. Yep. And this is where you've got to stand up for yourself and say, I need a break today. Yep. I'm sorry, but I need half an hour. And as a director, realistically, if they're not already covering someone, they need to step into those rooms and be part of the team as well. So you do hear that a lot, that some directors don't step into the rooms, and I don't understand that whatsoever. There's lots of directors out there that do, like me, would be in there in a heartbeat, relieving breaks and things like that. So
there's nothing wrong unexpectedly coming in, and you know what? I'll do that nappy change.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
There's nothing wrong with the director taking that charge, because let me tell you, the educators in the room would appreciate and think, wow.
I think that any director should be willing to do exactly what they're asking of their team.
Exactly. Mopping floors, wiping tables, taking the children outside, and say, hey, you know what, guys? You've been so hectic this morning. Go inside and take a 10-minute break. I'm going to stay out here with the children. Do you know how much an educator would appreciate that? And
I think that's the biggest thing. They just want the appreciation as well. So, and little things like don't take your work home with you. Half the time it's confidentiality and it shouldn't be leaving the centre anyway.
No.
But don't take it home. And if you don't get it finished in the day, well, that's when you go to your director or you go to your second in charge or your room leader and say, I didn't get it done. When was I meant to get it done? Because I didn't have the time to do it. Sure, sure enough, over time, if these things aren't getting done, they'll have to look at it and have to look at going, well, why isn't it? Yeah. Do we need to get more support in, or do we need to have extra staff and things like that?
Look, on the flip side, look, I mean, I I was a owner director of the kindergarten that I had. I never wanted to have that that being rewarded for my work, but across the board, a lot of directors at the same time would like you to go in and say, you know what, thanks for being supportive, thanks for listening to me, thanks for organising the shifts, and thank you so much for being part of the team with us. Thank them and be great. Yeah, it's got to go both ways.
Both ways, and that's the whole thing, is working as a team.
Yeah.
Even as a director or as a room leader or even an educator, sit down and delegate roles, delegate duties. So you're not all on the one thing at the same time, or feel like all you're doing is cleaning. That's why I'm here as a cleaner. So if you work together collaboratively, then this should, you want to try and create a harmonious, environment that people want to come to. They want to come. It's fun. You can have a little bit of a laugh. We're doing our job,
no one should feel intimidated, whether you're a Certificate 3, whether you're an early childhood.
Director, diploma,
it doesn't matter.
No.
That communication should flow across and your needs should be validated, and everyone should be supporting one another.
Yeah.
There's no hierarchy when it comes to looking after children. At the end of the day, the well-being of those young children is so important, and the only way that can be done is if you all come together, right, and do your duties that you're supposed to be doing, but in, like you said, in harmonious, fun,
equal environment. That's right. Yeah. So it does make a big difference, like as a leader, to be approachable and say thank you, because you'll find that if you say thank you to your team, they'll thank you back in return as well. So like we were saying, as a leader, come into the room to help out, listen to these educators' ideas. Sometimes I used to try and put myself in the room more often than not, and that because I sometimes would rather be in the room than in the office. But you actually could see what worked and what didn't work. It was all very good for me to sit in the office and go, well, how come you've got you're overstaffed in that room with that baby room. How come you can't get lunch done, and da-da-da. But then they'd be like, well, Chantal, come in and try and feed soup. Today's on the menu, it's soup. Try and feed, 4 babies with one person trying to feed 4 babies soup. It doesn't happen. It's too hard. So,
or right in the middle of transitioning from, inside to outside, little Johnny decides to have a tantrum in the corner, which then takes away a staff member from...
Or wets his pants. Or,
exactly. So, it's so important that... not just from educators, that means directors who step out of the room need to come in and go, you know what, wow, this is what's happening. But again, communication.
Yeah, and even some of the other tips that I've seen online is some centres, and it may work for some, may not work, is some educators have asked for a 4-day week or a 9-day fortnight.
Oh, okay.
So they tend to work a little bit longer during the day to have a day off, and that because I think that once upon a time RDOs were really big in our sector, but
not anymore?
Well, no, not really, because a lot of people don't get paid for their lunch break anymore because you now have to make sure that lunch break is covered. So, for instance, I'm paying for someone to come in to cover you to go on your lunch break. So generally that lunch break, you don't get paid for your lunch break, so off you go. That I'm paying that person to come in to cover you. Whereas back in the day, there was that thing where you couldn't leave the centre, so you were still classified underneath the roof ratio.
Right, okay.
So you could go and have your lunch in the staff room, but because you're still on the centre property, you're still classified in the ratio. Well, the regs changed to say no. Right. Ratio is only if people are face-to-face with those children, then you're counted in ratio. So that's why a lot of the RDOs now, a lot of centres don't do RDOs and things like that. So
the solution is to go to a 4-day week, work longer hours.
Yeah, and go to a 4-day week so they can have that day off. That has been something that has been spoken about in a lot of the posts, as well as someone actually brought up a really good thing. They're going, even just simple things like diet and exercise. I know when I had my centre and I was, really stressed and what have you, I used to try and get up early of a morning and just go for a half an hour walk or just go for a walk around the block. And it's amazing how much just starting the day with that little bit of exercise and that little bit of, it was almost like a debrief in my mind, could get me ready to come home, have a good breakfast and off I go, with lots of energy. So little things like that can also come into it as well. Just little things about well-being and
looking after yourself is the key ingredient for a healthy body and a healthy mind, especially working with children who are full of energy, full of life, and need your full-on attention.
Yeah, and I've noticed some centres do like a well-being Wednesday or things like that. Okay. So in the middle of the week, sometimes they'll delegate to a different staff member each week, and so they'll come up with something for well-being or wellness Wednesday. So and it's almost a little bit of an appreciation thing. There might be a bit of a morning tea, or there may be some some nice music playing in the staff room, or they come up with all different ideas for Wellbeing Wednesday. So it just sort of kind of, I think it's maybe that's the hump day that people that breaks up that week a little bit. So, I think, it's sad because this is something that we all are passionate about. We all love working with children. We love the sector. But I just feel at the moment that there's just quite a few issues that something just needs to be done. It just almost needs to be pared back and going, right, what's going on. And I know that the department have put out surveys and things like that, but it doesn't seem to be doing anything.
No, look, again, departments putting out surveys. Here, fill this form in, fill this questionnaire in. Anything else done about it? No.
No, because I don't have time to fill it in.
Don't have time, exactly. No.
I don't have time.
No, because I've got to do an essay on how little Johnny couldn't balance on a beam. I look ridiculous.
Yeah.
But you know what, at the end of the day, we say, right, what makes a good leader? What truly makes a good leader? Be a reflection of yourself.
That's right.
Okay?
If you're not willing to do it, don't expect it of others.
Exactly.
And lead by example. And like you said, the appreciate your team. And I know sometimes it's hard to appreciate your team if they do let you down, because that does happen as well. It's not all rosy in that director's chair by any means, but I think sometimes if you can be a good leader, then hopefully the cycle will come back to you, that those educators will want to work with you and for you and with you, like a part of your team. And then that will carry on to the children, and the families will see it as well. So,
look, come on, directors. Maybe look. I mean, I've been in both positions. I was an educator in the room working with children until I ended up, being at a director level, then owning my own kindergarten. So I know both sides, right, and the struggles, because owning a kindergarten, so that management level. But at the end of the day, if you want your position to run smoothly and you want your happy staff, you need to step up. If someone above you that's limiting you from doing a great job, you need to stand up. Because if you stand up, like a school, like I was explaining to you before, if you've got a good principal, you've got great teachers at school.
Yeah.
You've got a principal who doesn't care attitude, you've got teachers who don't care. And guess who fails? The kids.
Yeah.
Right? So directors, step up. Step up and say, right, you know what? Yes, I've got this above me, but you know what? If you're not happy, say something. Be an advocate for the educators that are below you, that work under you. But at the same time, educators, respect your directors, right? Because they're probably going through stuff that you can't imagine, at a level of what they're expected to do. So, that's why communication is so important.
It is. It's a two-way street. So
I remember like when you were studying and you were working for me, and I could see that you were really stressed out. I said to you, and I've said to all the staff, remember I used to say, don't throw a sickie and say that you're sick, but you're not sick because you need a day off. Say to me, I need a day off.
Yeah, yeah.
If it means a day off to go to the beach to relax, or if it needs a day off so I can do study because I'm doing extended study, talk to me, because I'd rather have you have that day off
than lie to me.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. And then therefore you can plan for those that staffing as well. And I used to say to even my educators, if you need to leave early or you need to do this, let me know, because it's easier to plan.
I remember that day that you came in, you were so stressed out because of your...
I was getting married as well.
Yeah, and you were so stressed out, and I said to you, what do you need? What do you need? And I remember giving you whatever, because I knew what you were worth, right? And you went, you had your couple of days or what day you wanted, and you came back, which you gave me more.
Yes, yep. Because I appreciated it so much.
You know, and that's what it's got to be about. That's what it's got to be about,
Now you give and you'll get tenfold back.
Exactly. So,
yeah. Well, I don't think we're going to solve all of the
we're not.
issues here and now, but hopefully we've given a voice to it as well, because, you know, I hear you guys and I really do, and I feel for you because
on all levels, you know.
That's right. So,
but just before we go, I'm going to leave you with this inspirational quote. Our fingertips don't fade from the lives we touch. You take care, everyone, and thanks for listening. Bye.
See you guys. Bye.